folks, welcome to the last video for our slab platters. Today I'm going to show you how to put this foot on the bottom of your platter. This is an easy part because all it is rolling a nice chunky thick coil. Alright, so let's get started here. I'm going to pull out some clay from my bag that I've already woken up, and I'm going to get a nice substantial piece and start rolling a coil. So I want a nice chunky coil, so you want a nice big piece of clay. You can always cut it down smaller. And I'm going to move this out of my way a little bit, and I'm going to start the coil in my hand. So vamos a hacer una bobina. See if I can move this over. There we go. Vamos a hacer la bobina para la base. So it's important to remember that when you roll a coil that you're just putting pressure on the out. No pressure coming back in. So that's a lot of clay. I'm going to cut some off. Queremos un pie grande, pero no muy grande. 2 veces el tamaño de un lápiz. So what I'm looking for here is a coil that is twice the thickness of a pencil in width and in height. But I want to make sure that my coil is even. So be careful, like roll slowly. Smooth it out if you need to, if you get any little wrinkles. And you want this coil to be as even as possible. Queremos que esta bobina sea lo más parejo posible. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and score this. I'm using my rib that is serrated, so I'm kind of cheating a little bit. You know what? I don't want that part. What I want to use is, if your coil gets a little bit flat, that's okay, because we actually want it to be a little bit flat. So while it's laying like this, you can tap it a little bit to get it a little bit on the flat side, and then roll it onto its side. So now it's kind of like on the tall side, and actually that's where we want to score. That's why I erased out those lines that I had before, because it was on the bottom and not the tall. So this is flat. See, this is the tall side. We want a nice tall coil. I'm going to come back here. And I like to stand up when I do this because I like to see it from the top. So in order to get this nice and centered, I'm going to make a plan. Vamos a hacer el plan. Estoy parada para ver el plato completamente de arriba. And I'm just going to give myself a little guide. There we go. And I'm okay with that. I'm happy with that. So I'm going to go ahead and score. Haces una guía. Si no le gusta, puedes alisarlo con su dedo. So if you guys draw this line, put your mark in for your foot, and decide you don't like the position of it, you can always smooth it out with your finger. So there we go. And of course I need a little bit of water, not a lot, poquito de agua. It's important that you score deep enough, you guys, because you want this foot to really attach well. Queremos rayar fuerte para que no se despegue. And now I'm going to put a little water on my foot and see how here's the flat part and here's the skinny part. And I'm going to go on the skinny part because I want it to be a tall foot. And I'm going to go ahead and attach, start attaching. Start attaching. And it's going to overlap. This foot is going to overlap, one on top of the other, okay? And I'm going to take my knife and cut at an angle. Cuando ponemos este pie aquí abajo en la base, la culebra o la bobina una encima de la otra y cortamos diagonal las dos partes. So this coil for me was barely big enough. Barely big enough. But I still am overlapping so that it fits. You overlap and you cut diagonally through both parts, and then that will make sure that you can now connect. When you connect, you're just pushing together and you're smoothing it. You're smoothing it together. Make sure this is nice and round for me. So queremos el pie bien redondo y queremos alisar la conexión. So I'm going to take this wooden tool. I'm holding from the outside and I'm smoothing this coil together very gently. I don't want to change the shape of it, but I do want it to connect and combine. I want to blend it together. If you have any score lines that are showing, just smooth them out. Make sure you give this foot a little bit of pressure so it sticks onto your platter. Poquito de presión para que se pegue bien el plato. Y empezamos a limpiar un poco. So, really important is for your foot to connect and combine well. Let's see, I need a paper towel. Clean my hands off. And you want to start going around and making sure that that foot is smoothed out. So you're going to go around and around, round and around. We don't want any gap. You can use this knife to go around and make sure that your connection does not have a gap. I'm going to move it onto here. So aquí estoy asegurando que esto está pegado bien y que no hay una área donde se va a meter el aire. Si se mete el aire, entonces este pie se zafa. So do you see how I'm just going around? Here it is, and I'm just going around like this. And I'm making sure that that connection is solid. If there's an area where there's a gap, then your foot can very easily pop off. So make sure that there's no gap, and that goes for the inside also. And again, I'm just using my wooden knife here, getting my sponge to smooth out any lines. Se limpia un poco para que no se vean las líneas donde rayamos. Smoothing the foot and also any imperfections, any little notches that you might see here. Once your foot has been placed nicely on there, you want to let it dry upside down like this for a little bit, okay? Also, eventually, you're going to really smooth these edges. Everything gets smooth, super duper duper nice. But this foot has to stay upside down so it doesn't get squashed, okay? Este plato ahora se queda así para que no se aplaste la base, este pie. Cuando se seca un poco, so when this is a little bit dry, what you do want to do, once it's dried a little bit, is flip it over carefully and tap it gently to make sure that that foot is going to be solid and not going to wobble. So lo quité de la almohada, lo toqué en la madera o en la mesa para asegurarme que esto va a estar bien parejo y el plato no, el plato se sienta bien en la mesa. Just smoothing all these things out. I like to wet my fingers and then just go around. Okay? So that is that. And when this dries out, of course it's going to dry slowly. You're going to leave it out in the open air for a little while and then cover it. And eventually, this is what we have. This is our platter. There's the foot, the side of the foot. Oop, just picked up that little shaving. There's the side of the foot. There's the bottom. You name and period on the bottom. You've got yourself a nice, beautiful little platter. All right. That is it.